So, hello 29thers, I'm Corporal Lamb from Civil Affairs, and I'm here with Sergeant Pinckney from AP3 HQ, and we're going to be doing Veterans Virtues number 4 live. Sergeant Pinckney, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, hi everybody, I'm Sergeant Pinckney. I have served in just about every company in the 29th except for Dog Company. I started off as a private in BP-1S3, also known as Merrill's Marauders, back when I was assigned, if that tells you any idea on the age. After that, I was moved to BP-1S1 as the squad leader, or acting squad leader. And after that, I retired, came back as a PFC in BP-1S3, stayed until we split up the games. I went down to Charlie, where I served as a fire team leader in CP3S1. After that, I transferred up to AP2 with AP2S2. Made the assistant squad leader, I believe, the second day I was in the platoon. Shortly after that, I was transferred to be the squad leader of AP2S3. Spent about 8 months there, and was recently transferred to the AP3 platoon sergeant role, along with Staff Sergeant Chev.
Blimey, you have been around, so to say. Not just every company in every game, but practically every squad by the sound of it.
I don't think I'm that bad just yet, but let's see if we can make it every squad.
Well, no, to do a quick count, I believe Second Lieutenant Bowen earlier in this series got to 9 squads. Can you beat that as a number?
I don't believe I can, so 2 from Baker. I believe 2 from Charlie because we had to go from 3 platoons to 2 platoons. 2 squads in Able, and finally AP3 HQ. So I believe 6 at the max.
That's not bad. That's not bad. It's a very respectable score. You're certainly keeping the me in the shade there. So from all your time in the 29th and all those different squads and all those different games, in fact, presumably you've still got a favourite game of the 3 that the 29th play.
You know, it would have to be I-44 for Arma II. There's something about the Arma II engine that everyone hates, but I love so much. It's the aspect with the complicated controls, and I think that the engine just allows you to do much more, even if the Arma 3 engine is better, per se, but I still have a fondness for Arma 2.
That's a controversial opinion. So you would say that you preferred Arma 2 to Darkest Hour, which is still very much in a lot of the veterans' hearts.
I would have to say so. I've almost 1,000. I think I'm sitting at 999 hours in Darkest Hour, but I know I have at least that in Arma 2, playing like Ace and I-44.
Wow, 999 hours. Do you have a plan on going back and finishing off your final hour?
Absolutely not. It's been my goal to not break 1,000.
Well, there's a problem with that. I understand you're also a senior drill instructor, correct?
That's the part that's making it very difficult. I've had to attend some Darkest Hour BCTs, and I'm doing my absolute best to make that last. But it's not going to last, and I know that.
That's a crying shame that you will eventually hit that 1,000 hour mark. But so as a drill instructor within Lighthouse, tell you what, talk us through how that came to be. I mean, a huge number of people listening to this won't know anything about Lighthouse. So why don't you give us a little rundown about what it means to be involved there and how you came to be a senior drill instructor?
Lighthouse has to be the most fulfilling thing I've done in the 29th. I can take a recruit who doesn't know what realism is to day 5, having him graduate, going to his squad, and kind of knowing that I helped him get to that point where his squad leader's not going to have problems with him, or he knows what the standards are in the 29th. I started off as an assistant drill instructor way back, probably about 4 years ago, and it took me a long time to get drill instructor. I only got drill instructor about a year ago, but I was kind of off and on with Lighthouse. But now that I am a senior drill instructor, I can really see the worth of Lighthouse, and at least in my opinion, it's always just been one of those things where I've always been really impressed by the quality of our instructors, and knowing now that I can influence the quality of the instructors directly, it's definitely has a special place in my heart.
So it's sort of somewhat similar to your job as a platoon sergeant now, but within an office.
Oh, very similar actually. The same way that I have squad leaders, I have drill instructors, and the same way that they have their squads, they have their training staffs. So I'm responsible for Darkest Hour and Rising Storm, both EST and GMT staffs. It kind of allows me an additional way to help out the 29th, especially when it comes to leadership. Because if you look at it, those instructors are keeping the standards of the 29th when it comes to future cadets and future privates within the squads. So if I can help out those guys in any way possible, I know that I'm directly helping the 29th.
And looking in my notes, that's not the only way you're currently involved in helping the 29th behind the scenes, is it?
No, it's not. I'm also the Chief of Engineer Corps, which that's how we get new maps. And a little hint, it may include some new surprises for Rising Storm and Red Orchestra 2.
Oh.
You know, maybe certain things that might go bang.
Well, that wasn't actually on one of my scripted questions, but now I'm going to have to follow this line of inquiry. So, within Engineer Corps, you've just offered me. I'm going to try and be professional. Leave that to the end. Within Engineer Corps, so I believe you're the Chief of Engineer Corps, but you've obviously got a large number of people working for you. Can you sort of talk about what it's like to be a member of Engineer Corps?
See, I can't really talk about what it's like to be a member of the Engineer Corps because I've never really been a member of the Engineer Corps before I took over Chief. As the Chief, though, I'm here to make sure the office runs correctly. If my guys need help, sadly, I really can't offer that just because I don't have the expertise that the other members do, especially when it comes down to map making, coding, 3D modeling. My main job with Engineer is just to make sure that projects are getting done, people within the office are happy and willing to continue their work, as well as just try to make the 29th a better place for your privates and your PFCs, because it really comes down to you guys for the future of the 29th.
So it would be fair to say your role in the Engineer Corps is similar, in fact, to your other two roles, in that it's motivating people and getting them moving.
That is exactly right, Corporal M.
You are quite the senior NCO, Sergeant Pinckney. So, let's stick with the Engineer Corps theme and things which go bang. Obviously, there's been lots of things that have come out of Engineer Corps under previous chiefs. For example, the Power Drop Mutator, which I'm sure everyone now is familiar with, or various maps and weapons. Can we expect to see anything coming up in the way of sort of new mutators and maps, as well as perhaps weapons that you've already hinted at?
Well, we're always working on new projects. That's one thing that I really like about the Engineer Office. It's going to allow us to build things for the 29th. If you look at our Fort Meade map for Rising Storm and Red Orchestra 2, there have been constant improvements on that map based upon the drill instructors' comments and the ADI's comments, and even the cadet comments now, thanks to the Adjutant Corps. I believe we're up to the 9th version of this map since we started, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Our map makers have done a very good job with it.
And that's, of course, not the only Fort Meade. There's also still Fort Meade in Darkest Hour, and I believe, is there a Fort Meade in Arma?
There is a Fort Meade in Arma, as well as Darkest Hour. The Darkest Hour version's a little bit outdated, but that's just because we haven't had a reason to update it. But when it comes down to the Fort Meade for Arma, it actually wasn't the Engineer Corps who made that. It was the actual company command of Charlie who made that map, so we really can't have any credit on that one.
Well, I'm sure. See, now you've said that you can't have credit. You could have glossed over that and sort of tried to pretend, but it's very generous of you. So obviously, Engineer Corps are responsible for creating a lot of this content and a lot of things that we play with, such as the infamous Darkest Hour shotgun and things like that. Which leads me on to my next standard question: of all the games you've played, all the places you've been, and all the rounds and maps you've been in, what was your favourite weapon to use?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. My AITs were, in Darkest Hour I was a heavy, so I loved the BAR. In I-44, I used the BAR. In Rising Storm, I do love to use the BAR, but I think it has to be the Thompson for Rising Storm. There's something about it. I like the idea that I can spray 45 caliber rounds just everywhere and have it hit the target even at 150 meters with one burst. There's something about that effectiveness and that ability that I just love to have.
So over time, you've got a higher rate of fire and a shorter barrel, so eventually we'll see you using the C96 then in the future.
Yes, C96 is in the near future. We just have to get that fully automatic 20-round magazine, and then I guess eventually we'll start working towards pistols only.
And then just a really quick stabbing knife.
Well, my goal is to get the ballistic knife from like Call of Duty 4. We're going to get that thrown in there.
I think that would be a great improvement to Rising Storm, actually. That would be the counter to the Japanese Banzai.
Yes, instant stab to the chest, you're dead. Well, that's exactly how it will work. Thank you, Corporal Lamb.
Moving back into the realms of normalcy, away from such fantasies, and I'm going to have to keep referring back to this extraordinary history of different squads you've been in. Is there any one squad or sort of section of the unit that you've been in that really stood out as sort of near and dear to your heart?
Well, there are two options for this, and I'm going to have to list both of them because I really can't decide between them. It's going to have to be BP-1S3 with Corporal Steiner leading the squad, myself as ASL, and we had like PFC Brodzinski as our machine gunner, and I believe we also had PFC Feldman, and a few other names which sadly I can't remember. With this squad, we won the Battle of the Squads, which, if no one knows, it was I believe it came out to like 32 or 36 squads in the 29th at the time, and my squad came out on top, winning it. It was a truly special moment. We managed to beat every squad that we faced, and I believe our goal for that entire event was not to win. We really didn't have too much faith in the aspect that we would win. We figured we'd get 2 or 3 rounds in and then get knocked out. Okay, we did our best. That's what matters.
I can actually attest to that because I was in your platoon at that time and you stomped us in one of the initial rounds.
See, we never expected that, but our ultimate goal was to try to get as many BP-1 squads up as high as possible, and I believe we ended up with 3 out of the top 4 teams came from BP-1.
Yeah, I transferred out halfway through the tournament, I remember that.
See, then I believe my other squad that kind of comes near and dear is going to be AP2S3. I only led the squad for about 8 months, but when I took them over, they weren't the best. I mean, they were just an average squad. Well, after a few months with me, I managed to improve them to the point where we won, I believe it was 3 out of 4, what are called a Stonewall event with an AP2. I mean, just doing that with that squad, I still kind of miss them, even though I'm not with them anymore. I still look after them. They're still really important to me.
Excellent. And I suppose then, I mean, you talked about sort of winning Battle of the Squads, or bots, and the Stonewalls and stuff. So you've been in a lot of different sort of intra-29th events. Obviously, there's a lot of focus in our training on sort of preparing to fight other units, but is it not fair to say that perhaps the majority of your action has been against other squads and other platoons within the 29th?
That's a very good point. I believe I've been in 3 Battle of the Squads, and right now we have the Community Cup going on, which I'm still a member fighting with AP2S3, and I've only been in 1 scrim, so kind of a number difference there.
But which was more intense, the internal 29th competitions or the scrim you were in?
The scrim, it was, I believe, around 6 weeks of constant preparation. I still won't go play Wani on Darkest Hour. I won't even consider it.
And what was the result of the scrim?
Sadly, we tied. It was 1-1 against the 2nd SS. Both team won the defending round, but we consider it a win because at the end of our attacking round, it was 1-1. While when the 2nd SS was attacking, I believe we still had 2/3 or half of our team left alive. So we still consider that a win.
That's a points victory. That's good stuff. So, I suppose we're coming towards what's obviously a key question. I've asked you about your favourite. I've talked to you about your officers. I've talked to you about your favourite weapons, your favourite squads. What is your favourite moment in the 29th, and why?
It was definitely during the scrim with the 2nd SS during our defending round. Myself and PFC Brodzinski, who's actually a member of the Marines now, but I believe we were together in BP1 for about 2 years at that point. So much so I convinced him to transfer into my squad just so that we could be, have that extra hour of drills just hanging out. So during this scrim, We were set up defending a building. We were on the German side. He had the MG42. I had the STG. So the 2nd SS was known for taking forever to attack. I think the attacking round lasted over an hour. And during our attacking round, it was probably around 35 to 45 minutes. So you can kind of tell our attacking round went first. So we've been playing this game for a long time at this point. So it was one of the funniest things that we've ever done. We kind of knew the action was drawing down. About half their team was dead. We lost a few guys. So both of us are talking on Steam about just how bad we have to go to the bathroom. So eventually we get to the point where I crawl underneath the bed in the 2nd story. He covers the door with an MG42. And I sprint to my bathroom. I come back as soon as possible. And then I cover him while he goes to do the same thing. I mean, that was just one of the funniest things that I've ever done in the 29th.
So would it be fair to say that if you want the listeners to this to go away with one lesson, it's either take a buddy on the battlefield with you or a bottle?
Yes, absolutely both will work, but sometimes the buddy is a little bit of a better idea when it comes to defending your building.
I suppose I suppose the only way that could have gone better is if while one of you was on the toilet, the other one had got the kill.
Well, something did happen while he was gone. I ended up getting backblasted by a friendly bazooka, or by a friendly Panzerschreck while he was downstairs. So there was some excitement.
You see, if he hadn't gone to the toilet, you might still have been alive and got to the end of that scrim.
I was alive, actually, because I was on the 2nd story. When he fired, I took, 75 damage.
Just lightly roasted.
Just a few 3rd-degree burns. It was alright.
That's some excellent stuff, sir. So, I mean, before we say goodbye, I was wondering if you have any final, I don't say final words, I'm not lining you up against the wall and shooting you, but any final words for sort of either very new members of the 29th or people who are thinking about joining the 29th, about what the 29th has sort of meant to you and what your time in the 29th has been like.
Well, in my time in the 29th, I've served with a lot of people. I mean, I've been here for almost 5 years, active, and I mean, everyone from Major Wheatley down to the privates in my platoon, I try to get to know on a one-to-one basis. So for the new privates, just try your best, attend as many drills as possible, learn from your NCOs and your senior PFCs. For people thinking about joining the 29th, I mean, I know I've dramatically improved, especially in leadership since I've gotten here. I went from a 16-year-old guy who didn't really know what he was doing to 21 years old and slightly know what I'm doing. So that's about it for that one.
Fantastic. Well, from my side, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, Sergeant Pinckney. And there will be more Veterans Virtues from more veterans upcoming. So thank you very much, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you.